right. And those for you online in the chat, you should be able to see the process guide for your own. So download if you want to download and save to your file system.
Around for a second just to make sure we're good. Okay. You're unmuted, by the way.
Okay, it looks like we've got the echo problem fixed, from what I can tell, right?
Okay, can you hear us, Vito?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. We weren't sure if you could hear us, and I'm a little, I can see myself on the screen, so it's a little disconcerting. I'm that large on the screen.
You look fantastic.
Oh, thanks. All right, so are we ready to get started there?
I believe so.
All right, awesome. I just let Jared just kind of did a little bit of an introduction for the team virtually on the purpose of us being here today. I don't know if you've I don't know who's in the room with you, but I don't know if you've let them know why we're here today. But for time purposes, is it okay if we just kind of jump right in?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, perfect. And then I did put into the chat for the team online, the non-posting manager overview process guide. And then I know Vito, I did give a copy of that to you. So those that are in the room, that is available to you. Vito does have a copy, but I also will be sharing with you how to pull a copy of that down from our system as well. So you can get that from our system whenever you'd like it, if you lose the copy that you have. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And because I do have so many screens available, I am going to ask the cliched question. Actually, I don't have to ask it because I can see it on behind Vito on that big projector. So I already know you can see it. Fantastic. And those online can see the screen okay as well. If somebody could just confirm that for me, you should see the AIM track system. Thumbs up. Okay. Yep, Jared. Okay, perfect. All right. So the AIM track system is fairly easy to use. We did not go with a system that would be difficult. I don't like to explain difficult systems because that would make my job harder if we didn't just hear I'm an art history major. So I don't do well with difficult systems myself. So when we were looking at partnering with a system for our members to use, for our clients to use like you, we were looking at systems that would be easy to use platforms. So you should all have login credentials. I did set myself up with the same access level that each one of you would have in the system as well. And as we walk through today, there will be time where I will be pausing at the end of each section, that if you have questions, feel free to just let me know. If you have questions online, you can throw them in the chat. I do have my chat up, or you can unmute yourself and in the room. If you guys want to just start talking, just let me know. I'm here for you guys today. And then I am going to rely on Vito and Jared for points in the process that are very specific to St. Charles Community College, because I only know how the actual system operates. They'll be giving you more specifics on how you operate the system within your actual processes. So with that, let me go ahead and log in. Upon initial login, depending on if you are a new user or if you've been using the system for a while, those who have been using for a while, if you are returning, the user interface has changed a little bit. We now have all of our items for dashboard off to the left-hand side. So there's primary areas that you will be focusing on. You have your applicants area, we call it the applicants dashboard, and you have your jobs area. The jobs area is where I'm going to start today. This is where you will go to the job listings. And for job listings, you would see job listings you are specifically assigned to. These are ones that you are currently have out open and are in the process of recruiting for, specifically for applicants that you've got open recs for. If you need to requisition a new position, for the team, you will click on the requisitions icon here. You can see if you have anything currently in process, anything that's drafted, maybe you are waiting for something, maybe something's been approved. You would see your requisition bank here. If you are ready to create a new requisition for a new listing, you will go ahead and walk through that process by starting the new job requisition. This is important to let the team know that you are ready for either a new position to be created that hasn't been budgeted or has been budgeted. Maybe it's a wish list item. I don't know how your process works there. Your internal team can let you know how you guys kind of go through requisitioning or determining what you guys want in a year. But that being said, you will either have a template to choose from. So there is a long list of job requisitions, templated descriptions that you can choose from. So if you are wanting an experienced coordinator, you'll just select that. It will give you the basics of this particular job template. It will walk you through filling out number of positions. So maybe you need 2 of these experienced coordinators, 3, 4, however many you want. You will have the ability to change that at the time of requisition. If you are needing to change up the assigned department, because the currently assigned department is like academic affairs, but maybe you are in, I don't know, admissions and recruitment, you can at this time choose another department. However, I'm going to go ahead and select academic affairs. Maybe you want to see what the job description is. You would be able to see that here. You'd be able to see the full ad description here. You can hide that if you were unsure of what that was. And then you would go through filling out the required questions. Anything with an asterisk is required. And then please note that if there are additional follow-ups, depending on how you answered, you will need to be completing those as well. So if it's a replacement, you will need to provide who the person is that it's being replaced. If it's budgeted, full-time, part-time, temporary, if temporary, how long. So you'll just go through all these questions. Note that this section will be left blank. This is for a very specific process that you have in place. So you will leave this section blank. And then I have my requisition approvers down here. Is there a question? Do I need to stop for a question, or are we still good? I think we're good. Okay. Once we are ready and I have all the specific needs put in place for approvals, I will go ahead and hit save and begin process. If I forgot something or I want to check on something, I can go ahead and hit save as draft and come back to it later. If for some reason you do not see your job template here, maybe you thought it was already in the system, maybe you did not budget for it, maybe this is something that your team has discussed and you are designing a new position, and now you need to propose a job template, you can absolutely do that. When you propose the job template, don't forget to also propose job-related questions. Those are position-specific questions. So you will be given the opportunity to create those alongside the job template. It will just give you the opportunity to give your proposed title, propose the department for the template, and then you can either attach a full ad description or down below here, it will allow you to operate this open blank space as a Word document. So you will be able to type into this space as you would normally. And then you just go through your normal questions as we did on the previous screen and begin the process of approval. And that will go through the team here for final approval and then posting. Once it's posted, then you go and you wait till you get your applicants in the door. And then you go through your applicant review. So before I go into the next section, because this covers your process as it relates to requisitioning a job to be posted in the system. What questions do we have for the group?
Aaron, I wanted to just interject something with the last item that you covered about creating a job template.
Mhm.
Typically, we recommend that if there isn't a job template, that the hiring manager partners with human resources to work on that. And in particular, we look at the job description to make sure that the job description is formatted properly and things like that. So, so while we do have a lot of job templates, if we're missing one, we recommend reaching out to HR and we can kind of help you out with that process.
Perfect. Any other questions?
No, okay.
Any questions on, is it difficult to update
it looks like-
departments after a reorg and what template they are associated with? I may need you to unmute yourself, Andrea, and give me more context on that question.
So we, so we've had a reorganization, some departments that were under, or some areas that were under what are defined in here as departments are no longer under that department. They're under, you know, like they may have been under student services before, now they're under academic affairs. The names of those departments change. So one of the departments is ACE Tutoring Center, and that's won't say it doesn't exist, but that name isn't valid any longer. And in some of these cases, that shows up in the job posting itself. So we're posting for a job in a department that is no longer valid.
Got it. That makes more sense.
And I don't know if that's something that has to go through our HR office to make those changes, or if that's something we have to, I mean, so this might be a question more for Jared and Vito, is what's the process for us to get those things corrected?
Andrea, I think what you're asking is, if we look at the department list that Aaron has listed there, and we have ACE Tutoring Center. So it seems like really what we're probably would need to do, and Aaron, tell me if this is right, is go in and update the name of that department to become Accelerator instead of ACE. Does that sound right, Aaron?
Yeah,
to just update the name of the department?
Yeah, and technology and online learning, that got changed, I think, in 2018.
Yeah.
But when we were, and that area is under academic affairs, so I'm not sure sometimes, or if it matters, because it doesn't look like there's a difference in the templates. So I don't know if it is really important to make sure we select the right department, because online and e-learning is under academic affairs, but not everything under academic affairs is in the list. You see what I mean?
Yeah, and okay, so that makes okay, I understand what's going on now. Okay. So yeah, Vito, to your point, I think it's more of it needs to be updated on the back end by your team. So it sounds like there may be a bit of because I know you guys were running into this when we were talking about cleaning up some of the reporting that you guys were issues that you were running into. This would kind of fall in line with the cleanup that you guys were looking to do. So we need to maybe take a look at the departments that you have set up and maybe do some adjusting and clean up there. So we need to probably schedule some time for you and I.
And
But yes.
I guess really like in the template screen, can we just update the department? Like if the department's changing, can we just update it in the template screen? Is that what you're asking, Andrea? Like a department might be changing.
If I click on that drop down, I'm sorry. If I click the drop down for the template, those are all positions. The department is a different option.
Yes. So the job template, when it was originally created, so that I just clicked academic program coordinator education. When that template was created, it was originally assigned to the education department. If this particular job position could fall into the education department, it could fall into academic advising, it could fall into a number of different departments, and or education may not be a department anymore. It could be a completely different department, to Andrea's point. It sounds like you guys may have gone through some updating in your organization for some consolidating, some restructuring, which makes sense, companies involved. It just needs to be fixed on the template side in the back end with HR to make the department available for selection on the template. So it's more of an HR, Andrea, to answer your question, it's more of an HR thing to make it either an available department for you to select at the time of your rec, because you can change the department at the time of requisition, and or the HR team needs to also update the template so that they have accurate reporting as well. So it's kind of a combined effort.
Andrea, as like, for example, with the current reorganization, as we build out the Regional Workforce and Innovation Center, there's going to be new departments created that require cost accounting and different GL codes that can be input into the system. Though that structure will have to be, once it's finalized, will have to be updated so it's visible to drop down in the requisition process. And of course, if, to Aaron's point, if academic affairs, I'm just making it up, but if academic affairs is no longer a department that we use, we will legacy that and remove it so that someone doesn't accidentally select it and then it doesn't go to any appropriate cost center. Does that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And because I don't even see that whole list that that we see on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's some, it sounds like there's a little bit of updating, and I probably need to spend some more time with the HR team. But it also sounds like we need to wait for more finalization to happen before we do the final updates to the system. But there will be some opportunity at the time of rec to make changes if you need to. And if you don't see something here, I would just let your HR team know, so that they can make the appropriate updates in the system. Great question. That was a great question, Andrea.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions before we move on from requisition process? Okay.
I mean, it is, but maybe, hey, Aaron. We did get a question here about requisitions, and so the question was, is it mandatory to put a cost center in the requisition?
It is not. It is not a required field.
Okay.
So it can be bypassed by the manager. Only the asterisk areas are required.
Okay, it seems like we could talk offline on this, but maybe that might be something we might need to change possibly, so.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any other questions? I'm gonna go to the next phase. All right. So once you have your rec post approved and the listing has been generated, the majority of your time as a manager in the system would be spent in the applicants area. So you just click on applicants and you can click on all applicants to get there. We call it the applicants dashboard, if you will. And really, honestly, depending on how many job listings you have open, I don't necessarily use the all applicants tab if you have multiple job listings available, just because my brain doesn't organize well that way. Because it comes in on application date. So if you have 3 or 4 job listings available, it could be a bit of a jumbled up mixture here. And again, my brain just doesn't organize well that way. You can filter by like job or date range, some statuses, that kind of thing. But I just prefer to come to applicants by job. It does a better streamlining of breaking up the different job listings for you. I have a nice little overview to the right-hand side of here's how many applicants are in the position. Here's how many are qualified based on any job-related knockout questions I might have. And if I haven't done anything like put them into kind of status or anything like that, I know that I haven't touched these 2 applicants yet, so I still need to do something with them. They're brand new to me. So I know that I have to do some work in this particular role. And so when I'm ready, I can just click on my demonstration listing, and it'll take me right to this job. So all I'm concentrating on and focusing on is this listing in particular, and I'm not getting confused with any of my other listings I might have open and available. So once you get here, it does do a nice little breakdown. It gives me a little status bar up here, and it will allow me to filter, so I can filter by statuses. If I lose a candidate, sometimes I do get notifications from users of the system. Hey, I can't find such and such candidate. They were here yesterday and now they're not here anymore. If you're like me, and sometimes I go too fast in our system and I accidentally click a button, if you feel like you've lost something or it was there 1 minute and now it's not anymore, our system will not delete anything. Our system is not designed to delete content. It's designed to continuously do historical reporting and actions. So if you feel like you've lost something, go to your archive section. That's usually where I find it because I've accidentally archived it or something. You will always be able to unarchive or reactivate whatever got archived. So just if you feel like you lost something, check your archive. I've been known to do that, just so you're aware of where to look in case you think you lost something. You can also do qualified, disqualified, if you want to search by a source. Anytime you do select a filter, though, remember to actually hit the filter. It's not an instantaneous filtering option. If you select something, you do actually have to hit the filter button. At the bottom of the screen, depending on how many applicants you have, you may have to scroll a little bit, but you do have what we call a mass capability. So where you can do everything as a one-off for one individual, you can do as a mass capability as well. Meaning if I were to select all these candidates, I could come down here and print these applications. Or I could spotlight these 2 candidates to Vito and say, hey, Vito, I am ready for you to bring these people in for a phone screen. Ready for a phone screen. And I can hit send and he gets an email notification saying, hey, Vito, an action item needs your attention in the AIM track system. He'll log in, he gets a little icon alerting him to look at some stuff. He can click on it and it'll take him right to Brittany and Aaron, and he can see, oh, the note from Aaron says they're ready for phone screening. And he can set that up if that's part of the process. I don't know if that's actually your process, but like that's how a spotlight for mass capability would work. Same for, hey, these people didn't work out. I don't love them. They were no call, no shows or something. I could mass update their status from here to attempted to contact the candidate. Or I could mass archive them because they aren't qualified for this demonstration position. Or maybe I want to mass invite them to, I don't know, something, a position. I can mass invite them to do something or mass email or communicate to them. The point being here is it's gonna make your life a little bit easier if you can do something all at once versus having to go in and do it multiple times. The most specific one here is like the thank you, but no thank you email. Don't ghost your candidates. They don't like it. And it gives a bad impression. So we're not ghosting anybody in 2025 because we don't want to be ghosted in 2025 either. So this is going to allow you to do easy rejections, easy notifications, easy communication. So just a mass capability would be at the bottom of the screen. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at a candidate. To do that, you're actually going to click on the name of the individual. And it'll pop up on the screen. It actually popped up as secondary tab. So now I'm in a new browser tab. That's important to note because the more browser tabs you pop open on our system, you may find yourself running into, at some point after like 10 to 12 browser tabs open, you may find yourself being logged out. It doesn't love the amount of browser tabs you have open after a while. So with that, also, it'd be super annoying to have to come back out here and click on another candidate's name. With that, to the left-hand side, you do have the ability to click back and forth between candidates that are active qualified candidates just through this left scrolly bar on the lower left-hand side of the screen. So that way you're never having to go back and forth. It's all just right there, and their information will pop up in the main portion. So it's readily available for you to see. So I did want to point that out for y'all. That being said, a majority of this screen is dedicated to the application of the individual. You'll see their personal information here. Depending on how they applied, I had to copy my application over for demonstration purposes today. But if they came from, let's just say, Indeed or ZipRecruiter, maybe your own St. Charles Community College website, you may also see how they prefer to be communicated with. So it may say text communication or email communication. You would see their source that says Indeed Apply or St. Charles Community College website. Maybe they were an employee referral, so you may see Vito's name appear because it was an employee referral. And then you'll also see a majority of their application. So you'll see things like the employment history, their education history. You'll see like resume sample. So this would be like their resume, references, etc. I try to provide a good example for you guys to look at today. And then if you guys use Spark Hire, you're integrated with assessments. You will be integrated here. Is there a question in the room, or are we waiting for?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And then I don't know that you guys are using these two tabs yet, but once you guys do deploy it, we can do another like little training if we need to. So with that, to the right is important to note. This is a great tool for those that are maybe sourcing applications and have multiple people sourcing the same applicant pool or multiple people in the process. So as you start to source your candidates, the timeline will help you track who's doing what, when they did it, and what did they do. Our system basically will track every time somebody touches an application and what they did. So if I'm helping support Jared and Vito, and they say, hey, Aaron, we're struggling, something's wrong with the system. Can you go in and check XYZ candidate for us? I think something's wrong. You may see my name appear and it may say viewed by Aaron Miley, because I'm in there trying to support Vito and Jared on troubleshooting something. So from time to time, my name might pop up. You may also see your HR team in there. You could see your own name in there. You'll see things like status change, manually added, viewed, email sent, as you start to use like any kind of questionnaires or data surveys or things like that. Because I know that your team's getting ready to roll out a whole bunch of efficiencies for you guys. You may start to see a whole bunch of different items appear on the timeline, and that you'll be able to help track and better navigate what's happening with this application. And really what our system is doing is it's helping you not stop the process. So let's just say Jared is sourcing my application and all of a sudden he has to go out on family leave for a couple of weeks. You know, he has a life event, he's going out and he has to stop the process. Well, the process doesn't technically have to stop if he's using this system, because Vito can insert himself into the process and say, oh, so this is where Jared's left off. And then I can come to my communication inbox and see all the communications that have been sent because I've been communicating from the AIM track system. So I can pick up where Jared's communication chain is left off with this candidate. I can easily insert myself within this process so that the process of hiring doesn't have to stop for this position. And I don't have to then restart or wait until Jared gets back. I can keep it going. So it's really going to help keep that process moving. It's going to help streamline and create efficiencies, centralize everything within the system so that you all aren't having to send emails outside of the system on the fly, back and forth. You guys can track all that within a platform. So since I'm here, I did click send message. This is how you can communicate with your candidate if you needed to send maybe like a little bit of a rejection. Maybe you wanted to say, hey, just following up to the blah, blah, blah meeting that we just had. Did you have any questions for me as a follow-up? I could send that communication to myself, and maybe I wanted to CC, I don't know, Vito on it. So I'm going to go CC Vito so he's aware. Maybe I have an attachment that I want the candidate to see about it because it was a follow-up. And because I don't see that they've opted in for texting, I'm just going to go ahead and send as an email. And I can also schedule a message. I do want to point this out in case y'all are working really late at night. Don't make it look like you're working late at night. You can schedule it to go later. We don't want them thinking we work crazy hours, even though we sometimes do. But you can schedule that to go at a later time. So this is operating as a communication inbox. They can reply back to you in here. You can keep the conversation going, use a templated message, freeform a message, copy people on your message, attach things to your message. It's just an inbox. It's an email system, right? And if they opted into text, you can actually text them to them. So it's a really cool feature. That's your send message button. If I'm up here as well, you can add notes saying, hey, sent them this communication, just going to wait to hear back. That's where we're at on this application, at a standstill. Just making that note, it'll track on the timeline here for you for people to see. I can print the application if I like to have something in front of me. I can go ahead and do that. I can attach documents. So maybe I have handwritten notes from an interview and I want to attach that document. I could do that. It'll appear under the resume and supporting documents section. I can spotlight just this applicant to Vito. Maybe I want to go ahead and set them up for like maybe a panel interview, and Vito's the one that schedules those panel interviews. I don't, again, know the current process, but like maybe that's what happens. I can do that by spotlighting just this candidate to Vito and typing up that message to him here. And again, that spotlight would track on the timeline. I could share the application via email. Now this, I don't recommend, especially if you have users in the system. I would just continue to use spotlighting because that tracks and everybody gets pinged by email regardless. And it keeps it all centralized. So I actually don't recommend doing the share application via email. It's just creating extraneous information outside the system instead of centralizing it. So let's contain that to spotlighting. But really, that's pretty much all that you will use in the actions icon, unless you have multiple job listings going and you feel like the candidate would be a better fit for the other listing you have available. If that's the case and you want them to be considered for the other listing, you can get them over into that applicant pool by hitting copy application to another job, and it will provide you with the opportunity to copy them into an available listing that you have access to. That way you can consider them for that position without having them reapply, which again, don't make them reapply. They're not going to, essentially, in this day and age. They're not going to waste their time when they're going to sit there and say, oh, you already have my application. Why are you going to make me reapply? Just copy their application over and then start considering them for that position. And then as part of the consideration process, you can say, oh, for complete accurate records, we need you to continue to fill out a full application for this role as well while you're being considered. You just have to go through a bit of an explaining process at that point. We did have a couple questions, so let me go back real quick. Who is able to see the notes? So Paige, the people who are able to see the notes, if you make a note here, the only people who can see the notes are those that have access to the application. The candidate does not see any of this information. I should stress that. The only time a candidate will see any of this information is if you actually send a message to the candidate. So a note that you make is visible to only the internal teams. So that will be the other users who have access to this particular job listing and the admin users of the platform. So that's the HR team, Vito and Jared and their team, and anybody who would have access to this job listing. So not everybody has access to this job listing. Not all your fellow managers would have access, but Jared, Vito, their team, yourself would have access to your job listing, and then maybe fellow department members who have similar roles as you may have access.
And a little bit more about the notes. I love the note option as a way to communicate with everybody around the institution, and examples of the way the HR team uses those. Of course, there's hiring supervisors in charge of filling the role, but HR is intimately involved with partnering, and we all the time get inquiries from candidates. And I will go into the notes section and say, Johnny Smith contacted HR on this date to inquire enthusiastically about this role. And of course, I almost always send an email to the hiring leader that XYZ happened, but I add that as a note on the application itself in case if the hiring supervisor didn't see my email, once they're in there managing their applicant pool, they can see that on the candidate profile. So any type of communication you can give, the more information, the better you can give on those notes. With where you're at in the process, as Aaron kind of indicated with, essentially case management, the theory behind that, it's where things don't stop. If the person sourcing it is out, it can continue to go, but very invaluable is using the note feature.
Is it okay to use it for screening, Jared, like to post your notes as you're going through the resume, that kind of thing?
If I was going to be doing screening and you have your own notes, you're going to be following your own type of template for that. And I would add that as a supporting document, as Aaron kind of indicated a little bit earlier, and then just attach that.
Okay, thanks.
And one more thing with notes is that your profile has to be enabled to view notes. So if you're not able to view notes, let HR know and we can enable the note viewing on your profile.
I think, okay. Andrea, I think I currently only see the most recent request I sent for a reference. Is it possible for me to see each request that was made? I just don't want to inadvertently inundate a reference with requests.
Right, so if I send a reference request and I haven't heard anything in, say, a week and a half, I may send another one. But if I don't want to lose track and have sent them like 5 or 6 requests. I usually cut it off at 3. And if they're not going to give a reference, they're not going to give a reference. But
Okay.
yeah, so when you request by email, the date that shows up there is only that date that you send it out. So if tomorrow you go in and request it again, it'll only be tomorrow's date, I think.
So you're looking for a history.
Yes, so that I know how many times I've requested that reference and if it's time to give up.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying.
So that requested date will change every time you send it out, but there's no way to see how many times you send it out prior to that day.
I see. Okay, so this section here is a little different. I'm gonna need to get with our programmers on this section. I'll get you more context on that. So I'll follow up with Vito and Jared and have them get you more information.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
That's just so handy to be able to just click, email
Yeah.
and have it sent from there. I know if I've got several jobs I'm looking at or something, it's easy to forget that I've already sent it 3 times. I'm not going to send it again.
Well, right, and
Yeah.
if you sent those, but nobody, and someone else steps in to manage it, no one else knows that it's been sent 5 times. They only see, oh, they just requested the references yesterday, right? Nobody knows.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
Monica and I ran into that recently because I had requested the reference. We hadn't heard anything. I wasn't on campus. So she went in and I asked her to make another request because it had been a week and a half or, close to 2 weeks. And when I came back and looked at it again, I saw it was requested by her on the date that she did it, but it didn't show my first request.
Yeah.
and that might also be an opportunity to use the send message, and you could reach out to the candidate and saying, hey, just to let you know, we requested reference checks with XYZ and we're not getting responses. Do you have anybody else we can reach out to? And that's just another avenue to leverage the internal communication within AIM-TRAC to kind of
Mhm.
grease the tracks, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I email with applicants just to say, hey, you're one of our finalists. We're not hearing from your references. Do you have anybody else? Do you want to give them a call? We've done it outside of AIM-TRAC. So one of my questions is, do we need to be doing all of that emailing inside AIM-TRAC to track it?
I think it's a good rule of thumb to do that because again, I come from prior to working here, I use Salesforce and it was such a robust, awesome system that allowed anybody to step in and see exactly where you were at. So if you're emailing someone outside, and Andrew, this is everybody. We do this in HR, right? Everybody emails outside of AIM-TRAC. It's just if the tool's there and it creates that track record to see where we're at, the redundancy won't have to happen and you can be more process minded with efficiency, right? So you're not sending duplicate emails and it just slows everything down because no one knows where it's at. So if everybody institutionally makes that commitment to leverage the messaging within AIM-TRAC, everybody's just going to improve. We just got to get everybody committed to doing that, HR included.
Mhm.
What's up with that or with that occupation there, Aaron?
You know, I was gonna see if anybody noticed that. I was like, huh, it's my test application. I always like to throw in and see if anybody's paying attention. If you get to my additional questions, you're gonna get some interesting answers. So yes, I do recommend keeping everything centralized to Jared's point. It just makes for ease of use out of the system. Sorry, I was trying to reply to the email I sent so you guys could kind of also see what a reply would look like in an instance where if I sent a message outside of the system and the applicant replied. I will get more context around the references though, because there should be tracking on this as far as I know.
Yeah, it
So I
could
will-
be as simple as adding a couple extra fields that have request 1, request 2, to her point, if you requested January 1st, 15th, and 31st, if it only shows the 31st, but you had multiple other attempts, people might delay moving on to a new candidate because they
Yeah.
think that it's the first iteration. So phenomenal question, Andrea.
Yes, that was a great question because I've never been asked that question. I don't think anybody has thought that far through. This is also what a reference gets, just so you're aware. this is what they get as a reference, if you click that button, in case you were ever curious. Well, they add reference button on our system. Oh, great question, Vito. That's only enabled because I manually entered my application. That's why you see the add references. I don't know that I can enable that button, but I will see if there's a capability to enable that button in the back end so that it's manual capability all the time for your team.
Vito, is that
Great.
in case if we're not getting anywhere with a reference and then a candidate gives us an additional reference to go in and input it so we can send out the reference request?
Yeah, because what's happening is sometimes they give us references that don't respond. And so we manually go into our email and send a reference request, and we're trying to avoid having that manual external process. And so if we can add an additional reference in AIM-Track, that would be so much easier to keep everything centralized.
Gotcha.
I'll check on it. I did just refresh the screen so that we could see what it looks like when a response comes in from a candidate. So as you can see, a little red icon appears with the message button, so that you now know, hey, this person's responded. Quick and easy. Also, you can see their response came through right here. I didn't make it overly formal. I was just trying to get the point across. But this was their response to the communication. So it's a bit of a back and forth, kind of like if you were texting, it's a back and forth bubble situation. And you can see how it was replied to. This was an email specifically. If it was a text response, you would see text come up, even though you still physically are emailing technically. So it does show up as a new message. So you can kind of see what that looks like. And if I refresh, it should show that I did view it, so it goes away. All right,
That will
perfect.
not show up on the timeline. That's separate.
That's separate because it's not tracking as an internal action item. So when the applicant communicates back to you, their message does not track as a new communication message on the timeline, just because it's not an internal tracking, it's an external tracking. The timeline is tracking internal items. Okay, real quick before we move, I was hoping Brittany's had this, but I guess I didn't copy her from something else. If they are frequent appliers, you may also see things pop up under other applications. So you may also see things like academic affair position or active faculty position. So you can see if their last status. So like you might see that they were previously hired on in like a position that was available in like I don't know how long you guys have been using the system, but maybe like 2020, or, you know, maybe they were a not selected candidate in a position from 2022. So you could see that history if you have access to see other applications in those job listings. So just kind of being aware of what that means, and understanding if you have questions about why they weren't selected or anything like that, I would reach out to the HR team. If you don't understand what a status means on an application, they would be best positioned to help you understand that status that they were in at the time, maybe why they weren't selected at the time. If you can't see the application, because if you try to click on it, it may not let you go there if you don't have access to that listing. They may be able to provide context. It's a great time to spotlight it and say, hey, I see that this candidate has another application for XYZ position. Can you help me understand why they may not have been a good fit at the time? I'm looking to consider them for this position. You know, I just would like to be informed of if there's any issues I should be looking for. That would be a great spotlight to the internal team as a communication to have. So just kind of being on the lookout for other applications and what those statuses mean. And with that, that is a majority of the time spent for the manager in the system as it relates to navigating the application. You do have your statuses, but that's more, that's a more of a internal process on how you use the statuses. These are how you obviously, hey, I'm moving them into an attempt to contact the candidate status because I've reached out and I'm starting the process of contacting, or I've started my first round interview with this candidate kind of status. This is more of an internal process and something that Vito and Jared and the team there can outline for y'all. But before I move that over, any kind of questions I can tackle for the team?
I do want to say with regard to the statuses, it's very critical that the hiring supervisor do some form of status update on their candidates as they're moving through the process, because, we can see through that timeline, we can see the viewing, which is great for us because we know that, there's movement happening with the applicants. But, oftentimes we'll have, a job that might even have one status updated. It's the last candidate and it shows hired. And we don't know how many interviews they conducted with how many candidates. We don't know if communication has gone out to candidates not selected. It's just, if you are not going to be moving forward with them, just do the drop down and do the status update. So you're communicating with HR. We have a grasp where you're at. And then also that visibility into where you're at in your process allows us to tailor make support that we give you. Because if we see that you've got 10 candidates and every single one of them doesn't meet qualifications, or you've reached out and you haven't got a response, or you're not interested in them, we might start to pursue other avenues of support to increase the applicant funnel versus needing to chase you down to ask you, or you get inundated with the where are you at? It's just a way for us to gain insight. The more the more up to date those statuses are. It's just really important for the HR team. I just want to convey that.
Absolutely.
Just to add on to that, Jared, that's a great point. Also, when you were looking at the candidate experience, if the hiring team can update the statuses and someone's reviewed but not selected, then we can send out that communication to that applicant to let them know that they haven't been selected to move forward. So it just helps us to update the candidate and provide that experience that they need of transparency. So
We've all had gotten that 10 months later rejection email, and it does not look good for the organization, where you're like, what job did I even apply for there, right? To Vito's point, no, that's a great point, Vito.
Absolutely. Awesome. Any other questions from the team? Nothing? We're all experts now. All right, let's learn how to get some help. So I did throw the chat into the chat, the guide. I know Vito has a copy, but for those in the room, how to get a copy afterwards in case Vito, you lose the one that Vito gives you, or he forgets to give it to you. Not that he would ever do that, but just in case. There is a search bar at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to go ahead, and so it's just need help, search the help content. Essentially, you guys have what we call a non-posting manager access. So all you have to do is type in non, and then it's a space, and it literally is the first guide that comes up. It's called non-posting manager process overview. This guide essentially walks through with screenshots. The user interface did change a little bit as far as like the header bar here, but it's now on the left-hand side. But the rest of it is still the same. It goes through those different tabs for the applicant's dashboard. It walks you through everything I did today with a little bit of explainers, nice little visual aids. So if you ever need the guide, it is downloadable into a PDF format for you to view. Probably some additional content there that I didn't go over today, so that you can easily access that from the system. There's also a little bit of a non-posting manager training video. If you forget, and this video maybe is a little confusing, there's another one here as well for you to access, plus a whole lot of other guides and training and FAQ for you on things in the system. Probably way more than you have access to, but if you're on a lingering spot and you're like, I forgot how to send a message, you can type in send message and it'll help you, like the communications inbox, how to use it. If you forgot how to send a message or how to use that communications inbox, there are user guides built in to the system so that it will show you how to use that communications inbox in more detail. So please use the FAQ. Please use the user guides here. The contact us button, there is a larger support team. Please feel free to reach out to them, but the HR team has my contact information. I'm here as well. They'll probably shoot you over to me. I'm happy to help with any questions you might have. My name's Erin. I'm always happy to help and answer anything if you guys ever need me. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today.
You'll have to book an appointment from her email signature, and she might be booked for a couple weeks, but we have people around the institution that are like that as well, Andrea, with your calendar.
Uh-oh.
We're just in high demand. It's fine. All right. Anything else that you guys have questions on? Well, I'm gonna let you guys go. That's all I got.
No, we're very grateful. Thanks everybody for stopping in today. Again, this is going to be viewable. We're going to upload this into Canvas so you can take a refresher. And this in by no way, shape, or form, and I hope you understand this, this is your training. Don't contact us. Of course, we're here to partner. You need to get some scheduled one-to-one time to make sure you are dialed in and are totally up to snuff with what needs to happen. We can make that happen, of course. We're wanting to be partners with you. This is another resource, right?
Yes, I echo that, Jared, and Erin, I appreciate your time today and everyone who joined us on the call. Certainly, we're here to help out with anything needed in the hiring process.
All right. Thanks for joining. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Bye-bye.